Number 10, the cherubim. I've talked about cherubim in a previous video and I just have to bring them up again. How does something so terrifying start being depicted as something so cute? When you think of a cherub, you obviously think back on all the times you've seen babies drawn in frescoes in museums and churches, but considering the original description of them, they had to be aliens. They came from the sky, and well, they had 4 wings, 4 heads, one made up of an ox, one a lion, one a man, and one an eagle. So you say? So what? They had an active imagination. But okay, fine. Except for the fact that the cherubim also traveled on some kind of flying, multi-wheeled metallic ship. And did I mention they came from the sky? So, need I say more? Number 9, Jacob's ladder. The Bible survives off of continued attempts at interpretation, and the story of Jacob's ladder is no exception. The tale goes that Jacob was on his way to Haran and had stopped for a rest. While he slept, he had a pretty trippy dream. He dreamt that angels were ascending and descending upon a stairway to heaven that was resting on the earth. Jacob saw the Lord in the heavens above the ladder, and the Lord told him to go in every direction spreading the word. Which kind of sounds like a ladder from a spaceship touched down and the aliens were like, hey, tell people so we can, I don't know, have dinner or something. Like, we might be able to have a last supper before we leave. Sorry, what? Was it just a fever dream, or did Jacob accidentally wake up during a space invasion? Number 8, Ezekiel 1:1-28. While the prophet was being held captive at Babylon in 594 BCE, Ezekiel, like the bread, had an intense vision that has sparked a lot of discourse surrounding a potential alien visitation. Firstly, it involves the cherubim, which, as I mentioned, had to be some sort of extraterrestrial, but there is an allusion to, well, a spacecraft. Here is the actual passage. As I looked, behold, a stormy wind came out of the north, and a great cloud with brightness around it, and fire flashing forth continually, and in the midst of the fire, as it were, gleaming metal, and from the midst of it came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had a human likeness, unquote. So, gleaming metal, human likeness. Everyone's thinking it, I'm just saying it. Aliens. Also, if you're gonna give me hate in the comments for, like, I don't know, blasphemy, you clicked on this video, you knew what it was gonna be about. Just saying. Number 7, the ascension of Elijah. A lot has changed since the Bible was first written. We've learned a lot since the Bible was first created. 1, that the earth is not flat, that we actually orbit around the sun, that the stars are actually giant balls of gas constantly combusting, and that there is a strong possibility that life exists out there in the universe. So now, when modern onlookers take a look at the tales from the Bible, some new ideas are coming to the surface. For instance, what if the ascension of Elijah was actually an early alien abduction? The Bible describes that he was taken up by the Lord in a chariot of fire. The chariot of fire is the main point we are focusing on here. Given how many modern UFO sightings talk about bright lights moving in the sky, could this chariot have been a UFO? An unknown, glowing, flying object that must have boggled the minds of us muggles on the ground? Maybe the fire was the engine shooting away. Now that's a revelation. Speaking of revelations, let's talk about Revelation 9:7-11. The flying alien locusts that are foretold to destroy the earth, and I quote, "The locusts looked like horses prepared for battle. On their heads they wore something like crowns of gold, and their faces resembled human faces. Their hair was like women's hair, and their teeth were like lions' teeth. They had breastplates like breastplates. They had breastplates like breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was like the thundering of many horses and chariots rushing into battle. They had tails with stingers like scorpions, and in their tails they had the power to torment people for 5 months." Unquote. Flying alien horse locusts? Some theorists say that this particular passage describes war machines of the future, that perhaps whoever visited them had armored planes that could only be compared to what people then already knew. Number 5, the flying scroll. Here we have yet another potentially misinterpreted image. I wonder if the ancients played the same game we play with clouds. You know, like, that's a scroll, that's the Lord, that's an angel. In the opening verses of Zechariah, they describe a flying object that's, and I quote, "The length thereof is 20 cubits and the breadth thereof is 10 cubits, unquote, and continues to be interpreted as a flying scroll or roll. Though it's a pretty general description, many modern interpretations based on UFO sightings wonder if it was similar to a saucer, or perhaps cigar shaped like others that have been seen in the news. Number 4, the star above the manger. Now back to my reference to the most beautiful Christmas song ever, A Spaceman Came Traveling by Christopher. This is kind of how I picture the Christmas star story, that a spaceman traveled for light years, suddenly touching down on Earth to the awe of the people. His ship was a massive light in the sky, which I wonder. For the 3 wise men to find little baby Jesus at the manger, the story goes that they followed the brightest star in the sky. But what if it wasn't that? What if it was an alien ship hovering over that spot, leading them towards the little manger? There is one such man, a UFO enthusiast named Richard Lawrence, who believes this was the case, and even goes a step further, that Jesus was an alien himself. When greeted with skepticism, Lawrence has stated, and I quote, "I wouldn't call him an alien. I'd call him a great cosmic intelligence. But yes, alien, if you'd like," unquote. Number 3, Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah is probably one of the more well-known Bible stories. It takes place in Genesis 19. You know, the 2 most sinful cities to ever exist. So sinful that God decided to level them to dust. Though he did warn Lot and his family to escape, but he did say that if they look back they will turn into salt, which is exactly what happened to Lot's wife when she glanced back. In verse 28, Abraham describes the site of the ruined city, unquote. "He looked down towards Sodom and Gomorrah, toward all the land of the plain, and he saw dense smoke rising from the land like smoke from a furnace," unquote. Kind of reminiscent of an explosion, perhaps something as large as a nuclear explosion. Alien enthusiasts believe that this actually may have been exactly that, a nuclear explosion sent by aliens, or that they introduced them to the technology. Even during the Crusades, where the 2 cities were supposed to have been, travelers noted that nothing grew there. Number 2, the giants. The Watchers were described as a group of angels that served as the eyes of God, but they grew lustful and decided to take human wives. One of the verses in Genesis 6 describes this, quote, "When man began to multiply on the surface of the land and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of man were attractive, and they took as their wives any they chose," unquote. These hybrid angel children were described as massive, bloodthirsty giants called the Nephilim, which Uriel later drowned the world. He literally, Noah's Ark, that whole thing. Yeah. Now what this could be was alien intervention with the humans living on Earth to see if they could breed, and it went horribly wrong. So the aliens destroyed them so they could start a clean slate. Whether you believe it or not, it is a theory ancient astronaut theorists cite when trying to prove aliens interacted with humans. And last but not least, the archives. The Bible that is in circulation today is one of many copies and interpretations. It is morphed between, put things in, taken things out over thousands of years. And a lot of the original information is hidden in the Vatican archives. There are thousands of historical documents kept hidden from prying eyes in the Vatican, and for some reason, Pope Paul V ordered a certain section of documents to be locked up till 1881. Some believe the information regards the enigmatic Giordano Bruno, believed to have met or was an alien, and even more suspicious secrets pertaining to the Fatima mystery. In 1917, 3 children apparently saw an apparition of the Virgin Mary in a field. Their vision prompted 70,000 people to visit the same sheep pasture and stated that they saw a spinning silver disc in the sky. The children apparently received a message from the specter that said, and I quote, "We are here, we have been since thousands of years ago, and that they will return again," unquote. The Vatican recorded these messages, but to this day they remain censored and locked away. The 3 messages the children received apparently contain evidence of alien life. If they are so afraid of those messages getting out, does it mean whatever they said could change what we know of the scripture? Who knows?
That's right, starting us off at number 10, and probably the most obvious one, is the pyramids. Just outside of Cairo in Giza, you will find some of Earth's most amazing and famous pyramids. They were apparently built more than 4,500 years ago and are actually monumental tombs of ancient queens and pharaohs. But how did human beings build these massive structures with limited technology? Answer? Maybe they didn't. Maybe the aliens did. The Great Pyramid is made up of millions of precisely hewn stones, and they weigh at least 2 tons each. This, along with the idea that 3 of the Great Pyramids line up with Orion's belt in the night sky, lead many to believe that the pyramids are actually of alien creation. Now, scientists and historians actually have a pretty good idea of how thousands of human hands could have helped create these magnificent structures, but nothing has been set in stone. So, did the aliens build the pyramids, or did we just not give the ancient Egyptians enough credit? Who knows?
In our 9th spot today we have the tombs. Now this one is more on the crazier side. The theory comes from the show Ancient Aliens, which is questionable but also really addicting. Anyways, ancient astronaut theorists believe that the ancient Egyptian tombs weren't just built for burial purposes. No, they were actually instructed by the aliens on how to create these tombs. If you look at old texts from back then, they talk about how they received knowledge to build tombs from the gods. Now, it's believed that the gods they worshipped were actually aliens, so there's that. Aliens told them how to build the tombs, but why? Well, they believe that this is because the tombs were a way for the Egyptians to get to the afterlife and reunite with extraterrestrials. Egyptians believed that the tombs were gateways to the afterlife. That's why they put so much time and detail into them, and they were so lavish and intricate. In the end, they would use the tomb to reunite with aliens. In fact, ancient astronaut theorists believe that our physical life is not our only life, but it's actually preparing us for another life after this one that's even greater and with extraterrestrial beings.
Coming in at number 8, we have the Abydos hieroglyphics. Now this is either a sign of time travel or it's a sign of aliens, or maybe it's even a sign of time traveling aliens. On an Egyptian temple wall in Abydos, there are hieroglyphics of what appear to be futuristic aircraft, such as a helicopter and a spaceship. This specific piece is dated to be from 3,000 years ago, and I think it's pretty safe to say that there were no aircrafts that were human-made at that point. Dr. Ruth Hover and her husband were the ones to discover these amazing hieroglyphics, and they were shocked that they not only discovered them, but they also discovered them behind a wall panel that they had to break down in order to reveal the entire piece. Now, why was it hidden? Who's hiding it? Is it the aliens, or is it our human government official friends who are doing their best to conceal the secret? All we know for sure is that these markings that are there are 3,000 years old, and no human at that time had access to such vehicles that we know of.
Moving on to number 7, we have the Sphinx. So Dewey already talked about how everyone believes about the pyramids being made by aliens. Well, what about the Sphinx? Don't worry, they believe the Sphinx was created by aliens as well. I mean, how is it that they managed to create such a tall and intricate structure when they didn't have any modern day building equipment? It's quite bizarre. But that's not even the weirdest part. Back in 2018, satellite photos on Mars revealed something really freaking freaky. It appeared as if there was a Sphinx similar to the one in Egypt on Mars. That's right, you heard me correctly. The rock formation that was seen in the images eerily resembled the 200-foot tall Sphinx statue. So could it be that aliens built the one on Mars and the one in Egypt? Dun, dun, dun.
Coming in at our number 6 spot, we have hieroglyphics on Mars. Okay, so this one isn't exactly found in Egypt, but it does have a tie to Egypt. NASA recently retrieved tons of new photos from the red planet Mars taken by its Curiosity rover. When the pictures came back, many noticed these awfully strange markings on the side of a rock. The markings being rather similar to the ancient hieroglyphics that are found in Egypt. According to many alien researchers and conspiracy theorists, this is proof that the aliens had been on Earth, especially in ancient Egypt, and that they also may have come from Mars. But scientists aren't exactly on board with this theory yet. Many believe the photo to be manipulated into having the markings on the stone, and others just think that they could be strange markings that, just aren't explainable. In the end, the only thing close to life on Mars that has been found so far is water below the planet's surface. So while that gives the possibility and opportunity for life, we still don't have any hard proof. But if these markings did turn out to be real, no one would give a heck about Martian water.
We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the sun god Aten. Back in the day, ancient Egyptians were known as polytheistic, meaning they believed in multiple gods. That was until one day Pharaoh Akhenaten was literally like, nah, we only need to worship one god and one god only. And that was the sun god. Which makes us wonder, why would Akhenaten come out of nowhere and declare this? What changed his mind? What made him believe that the sun god was the only god out there? Well, the answer might lie in the depiction of that god. Aten is depicted as a disc in the sky. Isn't that strange? What else do we know that is a disc that flies through the sky? UFOs/aliens and their spacecrafts. So theory goes that Akhenaten was greeted by this flying saucer one night and his entire view about gods changed. The aliens might have given him a message telling him that they are the only god out there and they should bow down to them. So he did as he was told to do and got everyone to worship this flying disc, aka the aliens.
Coming in at our number 4 spot, we have an Egyptian pictograph of a caped alien. This pictograph from 400 BCE pictures a man offering up some type of large fowl to what seems to be a caped alien. No one has been able to prove exactly what is being depicted here or why, but one thing to pay close attention to is the eyes. Don't those eyes look like the stereotypical ones we know from all of our alien movies, stories, and media? Yeah, they do. Without primary sources to tell us what exactly is going on here, this is a hard one not only to debunk, but even also to prove. I do really enjoy that it has the famous alien eyes though, because when I dive into the alien topic, I always try to have a healthy amount of skepticism, but I do also look for the common denominators, and those eyes are definitely common in pretty much any alien media out there. So, I don't know man, but it seems cool to me.
In our third spot, we have Akhenaten's elongated skull. So I just finished talking about how Akhenaten might have been in contact with aliens, right? Well, turns out that he might have been an alien himself. People came to this conclusion after looking at depictions of him. So in all of his depictions, he is seen with an elongated face and head, a long neck, small ribs, and a protruding belly. While all the other pharaohs were drawn to look majestic and muscular. Why was he the only one depicted as so? This means that the carvings must have been an accurate representation of what he looked like. So people were like, wow, he has a lot of alien type characteristics, maybe he is one. Whereas others believe he suffered from a genetic disorder that caused his body to grow as so. But you decide what you want to believe.
And coming in at number 2, we have Elon Musk. If Elon Musk says it, then it must be true, right? Back in 2020, Elon Musk famously tweeted, "Aliens built the pyramids, obvi." And this, needless to say, caused a huge stir. Shortly after the tweet was sent out, Egypt's Minister of International Cooperation responded to Musk's tweet with an invitation to actually visit the pyramids and the tombs so that they could prove to him that the ancient Egyptians did indeed build them with no help from our alien friends. Many others went on to reply to Elon Musk's tweet, including Dr. Zahi Hawass and Dr. Sarah Parcak, and I don't think they took it as lighthearted as the minister did. Parcak replied with, "Egyptologist here, Elon, who works on a royal pyramid site. They did not. Ancient Egyptians did. Plus we have the papyrus that are like live tweets of pyramid construction at Giza. Happy to share resources so you can get yourself educated." Ooh, yeah, so while I think Elon is a very smart guy, I would actually have to be more inclined to listen to him after he takes them up on his trip to the pyramids. If he is still saying the same thing after that, then hey, you know what, maybe he's onto something. But until then, maybe just put away the phone there, Mr. Elon.
And in our number 1 spot today, we have King Tut's dagger. Upon excavating the tomb of King Tut, scientists discovered a long 34-centimeter dagger wrapped up with King Tut. It has since been given the name King Tut's dagger. How original. Now back in the day, they didn't have the capability to study the dagger without damaging it, so it wasn't touched until 1970. When an x-ray was done on the dagger, it was revealed that it was made out of some interesting compounds, primarily nickel and iron. Here's the interesting part. How could it have been composed of iron when his burial predated Egypt's Iron Age by nearly 2,000 years? So that right there is shocking. As a result of the iron and nickel composition, scientists have declared that it was made from extraterrestrial metal. Now, there are 2 theories here. One is that a meteorite crashed down and they used that to make the dagger. Theory 2 is that the dagger was made by aliens and dropped or left by them accidentally, or maybe even given to King Tut as a gift. Starting off this countdown, we have the Barrier Canyon pictographs. Located in the southwest, the Barrier Canyon is a remote area in Utah. There you will find amazing pictographs that date back to thousands of years ago. Here's the thing, people are like, bro, those pictures look an awful lot like aliens. Most of the figures displayed there are quite odd. They are around 8 feet tall and shaped like a human but have no arms, legs, ears, or noses. They do, however, have big alien-like eyes. Some have been drawn with free-floating eyes, or wings, or with serpents around their hands or above their heads. Other paintings are of animals and humans, but the humans aren't drawn nearly as big as the 8-foot-tall weird creatures. The paintings are said to have been done by mixing blood and clay and possibly urine as a binder. Upon analyzing them, they found hair from a paintbrush that dates back to 6750 BCE, meaning maybe people back then were in contact with these humanoid alien type creatures. I mean, they would have had to had a big impact on their life in order for them to have been painted. Moving on to at number 9, we have the rock paintings. For years, archaeologists in Sharma, India have been baffled by these weird ancient rock paintings. The paintings are around 10,000 years old and they look like they depict aliens and UFOs. Archaeologist Junior Back said, and I quote, "The findings suggest that humans in prehistoric times may have seen or imagined beings from other planets." Some of the paintings show these weird alien-shaped figures with massive heads, whereas other drawings are of what appears to be UFO spaceships. In other pictures, these weird humanoid figures are wearing what appears to be spacesuits. In fact, locals in the village would worship the paintings and tell great stories about small people coming down from the sky in round-shaped flying objects, abducting people, and then never returning. So, were the prehistoric people just super creative, or were they actually greeted by these aliens? Moving on to number 8, we have Saint Wolfgang and the Devil. This painting was created in the 15th century by famous German Renaissance painter Michael Pacher. It was painted based on the legend about Saint Wolfgang tricking the devil into building a church. So yes, that green guy with the weird face on his ass is supposed to be the devil. But people are like, really? That's an alien. I mean, yes, I admit that this creature doesn't look like a traditional devil, but over the years the devil has been depicted in a number of different forms, including something like this. But no, a number of people strongly believe that it's not the devil he was in contact with, but it was aliens instead, and apparently aliens have faces on their bums. Moving on at number 7, we have the crucifixion of Jesus. Okay, this one is wild. Buckle your seatbelts. So take a look at this painting from 1350. It was created by an unknown artist for the Decani Monastery. The artist signed his name Serge, but there's no historical records of anyone with such name. So right off the bat, people are like, okay, so who created this piece? Especially because in the top right and left hand corners of the piece there are 2 UFOs with passengers inside. In the right corner, the pilot in the UFO seems to be looking all the way back at the craft behind him. Now I don't know about you, but no normal human being can do that with their neck unless they're an alien or an owl. On top of it all, this work would have had to been approved on the detail or else the whole piece would have been repainted. So someone saw this and was like, yep, that's accurate, looks good, meaning aliens were present during Jesus' crucifixion? Also, they didn't have spacecrafts back then, or any flying things. But those 2 people are certainly flying in something, alright? So what's the deal? Well, one explanation is that those 2 UFO things are supposed to represent the sun and the moon, or 2 divine beings watching over. But a lot of people are just like, no, they're aliens. In our 6th spot today, we have the Madonna. Painted in the late 1400s, this is a beautiful painting of the Madonna with infant Jesus and St. John. But if you look in the background, there appears to be a weird spacecraft floating in the sky. In fact, it is emitting beams of light, and the man in the back with the dog is looking up at it with his mouth open like, what the heck is this? Like he's in awe of it. Even the dog is looking up at it like, what the hell is going on here? This craft looks a lot like a UFO. I mean, come on, there's even light rays coming out of it, so what else could it be? Again, people argue saying that maybe it's an angel or some sort of holy entity looking down on her. But there's no wings or a body of an angel, and this wasn't the typical way to portray angels, so it seems quite odd and out of place to say the least. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with Leonardo da Vinci's paintings. A lot of people think that Leonardo da Vinci was in contact with aliens and was trying to tell us through hiding secret messages in his paintings. First off, people thought that Leo was way ahead of his time. Like he was drawing pictures of helicopters in 1493 before it was even a thing. He also talked about ships that could travel underwater, submarines, like he came up with a lot of modern day inventions somehow back then. So people were like, okay, he's either a time traveler or an alien, or he's in contact with aliens and they were telling him how to advance society. Now, here comes the freaky part. Someone mirrored and lightened his painting of St. John the Baptist, and it appears as if there's an alien face in there. It is truly quite freaky. It straight up looks like an alien from The Predator or something. Then you have his famous work of art, the Mona Lisa. Turns out if you do the exact same thing to this painting, you also see an alien's face. So, what do you think? Was Leo subtly trying to tell us something? If so, why would he make it so hard for us to find? Also, I want to know who went around like mirroring and lightening these images. Like, were they purposely looking for a coded message? Should we be doing that to all paintings or what? Moving on, at number 4 we have the glorification of the Eucharist. This is another religious painting that might include signs of alien life. So in this painting from the 17th century we see God and Jesus looking out over God's kingdom. But what's weird is that there is this weird round object between the two with antennas sticking out of it. It looks a lot like Russia's Sputnik satellite. Now, the sphere is the creation globe, like to represent Earth and the cosmos. But people argue that if that was so, then how come there's no stars? And how come it looks like it has almost a metallic reflection? And what about the antennas, okay? Some say that it's magic wands, but it can't be because they look like they retract, like antennas. I don't know about this one, okay? There's two theories. One, aliens provided them with such a device, or two, someone is a time traveler. I don't even know anymore. Coming in at number 3, we have no Chiri. This illustration is part of a UFO legend from the 1800s. The fact that back then they had stories talking about spacecrafts and extraterrestrials makes it seem like aliens are indeed real. This Japanese story talked about a sailor finding a weird floating craft in the ocean, which is what this picture depicts. According to the story, the craft was an object made from steel and glass, and was big enough to fit a small human inside. On top of that, they said inside of the craft was a small script that they couldn't decipher. Probably because it was like in an alien language, I don't know. But anyways, what are the odds that this story perfectly describes UFOs and drew them just like we picture them nowadays? In our second spot, we have the Paleolithic rock painting. This for sure is a painting of a UFO spaceship and no one can tell me differently. Like, there's no way this isn't. Like, come on, as a kid, that's how I drew UFOs. What else is it meant to be if it's not an alien spacecraft? Anyways, this painting was found deep inside of a cave in Neo, France. It's dated back to 13,000 BC, which is insane because obviously they didn't have any flying devices back then, so what is this a picture of? Maybe they really did come across a UFO. And in our number 1 spot today we have Dracula's UFO. Not gonna lie, this is another really freaking weird one. This is a 16th century painting of Dracula's castle, like the real life Dracula, aka Vlad the Impaler. Well, hovering right above the castle in the sky is what looks like a UFO spacecraft. Not only that, but in 2014 a tourist photographed a very similar UFO right above a building in the same area. Could it be that Vlad was actually an alien? Like, what if aliens need to feed off of humans to stay alive, and that's why Vlad did what he did? Because in reality, he was an alien, not a vampire. I don't know, man, this is all too weird.